couple of weeks ago in my studio, I wasn't particularly careful about the placing of the bowl of fruit in relationship to the background, and so I've got what looks like 3 different paintings. That's a bit of the garden, that's the paving stones outside the studio window, and this is the table with the fruit on it. So it's like 3 different little paintings. So it is important, before you put a single mark or brush stroke down on a piece of paper, that you consciously decide where you're going to place your main subject. Now, I know that we normally start doing a few brush exercises, but we'll leave that for today. And what we'll do is we'll get mixed up the colour of a piece of the fruit that you've got in front of you, and I'm going to start by painting the fruit inside the bowl rather than the bowl. I think the fruit and the rosemary, which I've got at the back of my bowl, needs to be painted first because my fruit's not going to last very much longer than this session. So if you've got Victoria plums or whatever fruit you've got, whether it's deep purple, big, large plums, I would initially mix up that colour, and we'll go in, I mean, what I can see on my plums is there's a sort of a pale pinky orange, and then there's this sort of deeper red, and then a very dark red of the plum. I'll just hold the plum so you can see it. So, yeah, it's got a slight warm orangey look, and then there's a sort of deeper reds and real deep red at the top. But when it's in the bowl, obviously the light on the plum has to be taken into consideration, and look at where your light source is hitting that fruit, and bear in mind that that area, when you paint, needs to be kept almost like paper colour initially. So you leave a little bit of white, which will act as the highlight on the fruit. So don't paint it out, or don't go sort of launching in and just sort of fill in the whole shape. So if I just show you initially what I would do. So I've got my colours here, and I'm going to mix up a sort of pale orangey colour to start off with. I've got a bit of burnt sienna here, which I'm using as well. Right, so this will probably be my first colour. It's just made up of alizarin and burnt sienna. If you haven't got burnt sienna, don't worry. Just use the alizarin crimson with a little bit of vermilion, which is the orangey red. There's always ways round this, you can find the colours just from what you've got. You don't need to go off and get different colours. Okay. So I'm going to dampen the paper, and I mean damp, not soaking wet, and I'm going to draw the fruit just with the water from the pot, the first plum, which is resting on another plum, so I'm just literally going to paint it in water. You probably won't be able to see very much, because it's very pale. And then I'm going to drop in a little bit of this colour, and I'm also going to blot out where I want it white. So
don't go so fast.
I'm just literally dropping the colour in, and because the paper is damp and wet, the colour just runs into where the water is, so where the damp bit is of the paper. Okay. I'm going to lift up a little bit of the surplus paint, and I'm going to move across and start another plum over here, because if I start adding any more colour to this at the moment, it's too wet, and it won't, I won't be able to control what's happening on the fruit itself. So I'm going to start another plum, which I can just see the top of it peeking out from the edge of the bowl. And this is why it's quite nice to have the pencil line there, because I just go above that pencil line. I'm not going to touch it. If you leave the pencil line, a little gap between the fruit and the pencil line, that can act as the highlight on the bowl edge. So don't paint right up to the pencil line, just leave a little tiny slither of white paper sort of between where you finish the fruit segment and the bowl edge itself. And okay, now I'm going to go back into my colours, and I'm going to just roll my brush on the paper towel to take out the surplus moisture, and I'm going to dip my brush into the dryish colour here. Well, it's a little bit wet because I've put water on it, and I'm going to take a tiny bit of that vermilion and I'm going to drop it in to the damp paint. I only had a tiny bit on the top of my brush, but that's quite enough. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to just wipe my brush on the paper towel and go over to the alizarin and do the same with that. I'm going to literally drop the dark alizarin into this damp colour.
What was the other colour?
It's very bright at the moment, but that's all right. Just get the general sense of it. Now I'm going to move across to the ultramarine and just do the same with that. I'm literally going to drop the ultramarine into the bottom of the wet paint. I'll wash my brush because it's too blue. And go back and put some alizarin over the top. So I'm dropping wet paint into wet paint. Okay. It's very strong and very bright at the moment, so right. I'm going to go back and work on the other one. These whites I won't leave like that. I will soften them when this is a bit drier, but it's too wet at the moment. So I'm now going to go back and work on this one. I'm putting some more of that initial colour I mixed up, and then I'm going to repeat this, what I did. I'm going to drop alizarin into the damp. And then go back with the ultramarine. So all I've used so far is ultramarine blue and a bit of alizarin crimson on this plum. Which is down here by the front of the bowl. And then I can always use water on my brush and soften the colours with the tip of my brush and just a little bit of water before they dry. You get a nice pale purpley colour that way. And I might just do the same with this one up the top here, just dropping in literally what's on my brush.